Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Welcome back to another episode of Search Talk Live. I'm Robert O'Haver. Want to welcome everybody that's listening to the show. If you're listening to us on iHeartRadio, let's be sure and check out searchtalklive.com for to see the list of people that are scheduled to be on the show. And any information up and coming, I would suggest that you sign up for the newsletter.
Yes,
because you're the first to know about everything. Now, with me today is my co-host Caleb McKelvin. Caleb, how's it going?
Oh man, it's going good, Rob. The applause starts.
Sorry, that was a lot to get out, but I wanted to get it out.
No, it's an awesome day here. We are kicking off Moz Month.
Yes,
absolutely, it is Moz Month. If you are tuning in, if this is your first time to listen and you have not been to searchtalklive.com yet, please head on over to searchtalklive.com because we have Moz Month. That means every Tuesday, starting today, we will have a member of the Moz team on the show with us to talk about social media, digital marketing, paid advertising. I mean, from everything that goes on to online marketing, we will have somebody from Moz.
Yeah, we're going to have Dr. Pete Myers.
Yep.
Pretty excited about that one. Russell Jones.
Yep.
We're going to have
Kelly Cooper.
And
of course, the Wizard of Moz himself, Rand Fishkin, who has been on the show before. And you can go listen to that show on our previous shows on the website, which is an awesome one. We did a blab with that one, which is also on the site, which is really cool. But today we have Jennifer Lopez from Moz, a social media guru. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to kind of kick things off, if you could, because you kind of share with the listeners, kind of what you do at Moz, your background, and what you're all about.
Yeah, great. Again, thank you for having us. We at Moz are really excited to have a complete, Moz in May on Search Talk Live.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. So my background, I actually started at Moz when we were still doing consulting, and I came from an SEO or technical background, really doing SEO, came in as a consultant.
Nice.
And when we stopped doing consulting, everyone who was doing consulting sort of, had to take on these different roles. And I always felt very passionate about community, about social media, all these things. And I said to our then COO, who's now our CEO, Sarah Bird, and said, I think that I can take and build and focus on community. And, we have these tools, these little tools that we're working on, back in 2009. And I said, I think that we can do something really great with our community.
Right.
And that's sort of how it all started. And I always felt very strongly that, as the sole community manager at the time, that it was imperative that I know SEO and that I was a part of the community, right? And that helped build a lot of those things because I was a part of the people, right? The people that I wanted to capture. Over time, however, I've definitely moved away from focusing heavily on SEO and, have grown a much bigger passion for building community in general. But social media has been one of those things that our team on the community team manages. And we love to test things. We can write about the things that we test. We get to market to marketers, which I think is a lot of fun because marketers are super, super active on social, right? And so if you go to our feed right now and you look at the tweets and replies section, because we had a big launch today of Keyword Explorer, or a new tool, and you will see literally hundreds of replies where we are replying to every single person that writes in about it. And so we take it very we're a passionate bunch about making sure that people get responded to and that they know that we're there and we're a part of things and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So essentially that's sort of how I, came into this world. Started out as a a consultant, and now we're, I now have a team of. So on the community side, we have 5 full-time and 3 part-time folks. Mm-hmm. And we cover everything from our events like MozCon, smaller events, Moz Talk, and our webinars, to a Q&A forum, all the way to all of our social channels. And it's kind of fun to see on a day like today when we have something big happening.
Oh, yeah.
No matter where you go to the website, you go to the blog post, you go to any of our social channels, you'll see that everything's a coordinated look and feel, right? It's one big campaign. It's not sort of this thrown together thing that sometimes, I see when people have big pieces, big launches or big pieces of content that they're putting out there.
Right. It's so huge to engage with people. I mean, on social. I mean, it's just like, right. I mean, especially when you have something like this going and you have a huge following of Moz. Mm-hmm. What do you call those? Mozzers?
Right. Well, I mean, just if you could touch on, because I think that's a really big thing. We'll kind of dive into it, is replying and engaging with your audience. Because, I mean, obviously y'all have Keyword Explorer coming out and sharing that and shooting that across social media. But even on a daily basis, how big is replying to your users, to your audience, and having that kind of engagement, and how that impacts your social media and your business?
Yeah, it's one thing that we have taken very seriously for a long time is it's not as if we don't think it's important to know who your influencers are and to understand the people, right, who can make a difference. But the thing is, in my mind, anybody who writes in with a question or a comment or something, any of those people could be influencers in various areas, right? And so there are definitely times when it can feel very tedious, like today, right? There's a lot going on. It's really tedious to go in and thank every person who says something nice about, the new tool. Now, we don't necessarily do it if we get a bunch of like retweets on a blog post, we don't necessarily reply to every one of those. But if someone sends us a specific message, a question, whatever it is, we want to show them that we actually care about what they're talking about, right? And that we want to be a part of that conversation. The other thing is there can be 7 different people at any one time managing the Moz Twitter account, for example. And the key is to making sure that nobody knows that there's a difference, right?
Right,
that
a cohesive.
No matter, right, a cohesive voice. No matter who you talk to, you're talking to Roger, who is a robot.
Yeah, right.
Right? We get lots of people that are like, hey, Roger, I'm noticing that Open Site Explorer isn't working right. I mean, we've trained people to have that understanding that they're talking with Roger, quote unquote Roger. And having a cohesive voice is really key because, it's not like, oh, there are these 7 different people who are talking to me and who is this and what's going on? It sort of gives people that comfort, right? Like my favorite robot just tweeted to me and people get excited. I mean, people get excited when we follow them.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. People are like, oh my God, Roger Mozbot followed me.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's so important to be engaged with your customers because or your clients or whoever they may be. I mean, if they're following you, they're interested in your message. So like being there with your client or your customer you got to be. I mean, regardless of what business you're in. I mean,
yeah, and it really depends on where your people are at. For us, it happens to be that we market to marketers, and marketers are on Twitter.
Yep.
Well, we're also seeing, for example, like for a long time, Google Plus was a huge place for us, right? Because we all know, like all the SEOs and all of the Googlers, right? That's the joke, like SEOs and Googlers.
Yeah. Right.
On Google Plus. Well, so it was a great place for us to be for a long time. We're seeing that sort of decline, and what we're seeing is that LinkedIn has become, like our third highest traffic driver from social.
Really?
Whereas it used to be way down at the bottom. LinkedIn was nothing, but
Right.
LinkedIn has made a number of changes lately.
Mhm.
And so we're seeing engagement and traffic and different things happening from LinkedIn. And so we've had to change our strategies slightly of, oh, okay, so perhaps we need to actually care about LinkedIn now,
Yep.
right? So it could be that you're getting people talking to you and getting feedback and getting responses. It might be on Yelp. It might be on, you might be getting reviews if it's a local business.
Mhm.
So there are lots of places where these things could be happening. It's just sort of making sure that you know where your people are so that you're there, to be a part of the community, to answer questions, to, be open and honest. And that's our thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have probably seen the once a year our CEO posts like all of our financial information.
Yeah.
Right.
Rand talks openly and freely about lots of things. So it's a very helpful thing for us because it means that we can, give you all kinds of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it means that we can be open and honest, and we can have people who are running our social accounts and people who are answering questions, on the help team or the customer service team, all have a very cohesive voice and understanding of, I am each person is essentially given the power to answer questions, make decisions. They know what they can say because we can openly say lots of things,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I think that's key also for social is empowering the people who are managing social to be able to take some sort of action.
Right.
I see it often where maybe a tweet goes out or something happens, and they get a response that this happens a lot with bigger companies where they have to go through multiple channels in order to get how do I handle this situation?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And being able to empower someone to just take action, to give someone a discount. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened. Let me DM you.
Exactly.
Here's a 50% off your
Right.
next time. Whatever the case is, being able to quickly react and just empowering them to do their thing is huge for that customer sentiment and really just building community because it makes makes people feel like, oh, okay, you're a decent
Yeah.
organization.
Right.
Yeah, and I have kind of a story for that too. I mean, I had last Christmas in Amazon. I ordered my gifts and I had them all wrapped before they came to me.
Mm-hmm.
When I got the wrapping, I mean, it literally looked like my son at 5 years old wrapped it. It was just seriously, literally, they put the box on, wrap, throw it across, threw the bow on it, and then sent it to me. So I got on Twitter, and literally within less than a minute, Amazon was on me and said, hey, let me fix this. Let's take care of this.
Right.
Why don't you contact such and such? They took it offline. They handled it well, but after that, I tweeted back. I'm like, "Thank you so much for your great customer service."
Yeah.
I was on it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge for me.
Well, as a business, it's got to be it's kind of a simple way to turn a disgruntled client into somebody that promotes your business because they want to be taken care of. If they have a certain type of issue or if they've had a problem, and you're actually reaching out and personally handling that type of situation. Then you're attentive to your clients, their needs, and they'll start promoting you and say, well, I did have this issue, but, they reached out to me and took care of it, so they can start promoting your business for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That the one thing I've actually had that happen. I was staying at a hotel, New York. It was a couple of years ago, and I tweeted about the Wi-Fi. I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm paying for this Wi-Fi that doesn't work," or some.
Right.
I actually try. I try not to make those kind of remarks because I know I've been the person on the other end, right? That's like, oh, come on, lady.
Yeah.
But what happened was the very next morning, I got an email from the general manager of that hotel. So someone did the legwork of seeing my tweet,
Wow.
figuring out who I was, finding my email address, and saying, we've given you complimentary Wi-Fi for the rest of your stay. It should be working right away. If you have issues, email me directly or something. I was like, what?
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
But one thing that I want to talk about also in regards to that is if somebody is being downright mean or calling us names or, essentially being like super derogatory or something like that, we will ignore them. We will, sort of not ban, but all of a sudden I can't think of the word for Twitter. Block. Yeah. Right. We will. Right. So we take it very seriously that like if someone gets kind of abusive with us, we're done.
Right.
That does not mean you being abusive to us does not mean that we're going to work harder for you.
Right.
It's a mutual thing. If you say, hey, I'm getting this error and we, have a conversation and help you fix the thing, that's, it's totally called for. That's totally fine. But if you start, sort of getting somewhat abusive, that's when I think that, it's not helpful if you do see social media people who are sort of taking that and, letting people be sort of mean to them.
Yeah.
Because I think that, we have to kind of say, look, we have to be empathetic to each other and how that works out. But
sure, and
it's amazing how quickly on social, right? Like within minutes, you can help somebody within minutes and it can just turn somebody's day around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's immediate interaction. And that's the amazing part about it is, there's no longer you have to shoot an email and wait 48 hours for a reply. You can immediately reply to them. And it just makes you can, improve your business and your client's experience, enhance it so much, and just make sure that they have a positive experience with your company.
Yeah, I should say my very favorite though was several years ago. I accidentally flushed my phone down the toilet. I kid you not, it fell out of a skirt pocket and it fell into the toilet as it was flushing, and it whooshed down. And I stood there like
plunger in hand.
I didn't know what to do. So I tweeted to T-Mobile and said, "Hey, T-Mobile, I literally just flushed my phone down the toilet. What do I do?" And the T-Mobile person, because T-Mobile is in Seattle, and so I'm, essentially like local, and they said, "Hey, DM us your information. We'll send you a new phone."
Wow.
And ended up sending me a free phone, an upgraded free phone. And then what I found out later was whoever the social media person was used to use that in his presentations for a long time.
Oh, man.
These customers. He's like, I had this lady that flushed her phone down the toilet.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And somebody sent me, they're like, I'm at a conference and they're talking about you.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it a little bit. Now, everybody, a majority of businesses, I wouldn't say a majority, well, quite a few businesses are told that they need to be on social. And we've really covered, why, because your customers are there. But it's not about being on every platform. It's about knowing who your demographic is and going to those platforms. Like a lot of people make the mistake is let's be on Twitter, let's be on Pinterest and all these other things, and they're trying to do it all at one time. And
Snapchat.
So you just got to know your audience, and then what I was going to say is if you could go down for our listeners. The basics of what you should do as a business when you're on social.
Yeah, I think so. Key is, not having to feel like you have to be in all the places. Now, it's important to know when people are talking about you. So if you have some sort of listening tool, like Mention is a great one or something like that, right? So you at least know what's happening and when people are talking about you.
Yeah.
I always liken it to, the guy that has that's spinning the plates on the pole.
Yeah.
Sounds so silly, but imagine this, if you will, right? You have the person always starts with one plate and one pole.
Right.
And they don't move to the next one until the first one is going really well, right? So once that one's going, then you go to the second one, you get that one going. And then you go to the third one, you get that one going. And then you come back to the first one and you come back,
Yeah.
and then you continue to nurture all of them as they're up and running. But it takes time to get that to happen.
Yeah.
And so, finding that place for us, Twitter was key and always has been. For being the place. Twitter is always our number one place to look at, right? And then we really started growing Facebook, and then we started growing Google Plus, right? So it's not as if you have to get everything, super polished before you get started, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is we also played around with our voice a lot in the beginning of like really understanding what it meant to tweet as Roger.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do a lot of beeps. It would be like beeps and boops and things and a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to find so let's say that you're starting on Pinterest, because, lots of places, if it's super visual, Pinterest could be a really great place to focus on.
Sure.
Or if it's, again, LinkedIn, lots of B2B companies are finding that LinkedIn is doing really well for them.
Yeah.
Even with ads, they're getting better at the way they do ads. There's lots of things that you can do there. And so being able to focus on one and get really good at it for your audience and your community, meaning you find, when people are really on. We have a tool, Follower Wonk, that specifically for Twitter, helps you find the best times to tweet for your audience, for people who are following you and who you're following. And, finding those things, figuring out, making it work for you on one before you really start digging into the next. And then continuing, it's the thing that also happens, I see a lot, is people start this like, okay, so I figured out my best time to tweet. I'm going to tweet twice a day at these times. And, and it's kind of a set it and forget it. But what happens is things change over time. I mean, we do tests that are 2 to 3 months at a time, and we will find like, okay, this is the perfect scenario. And then we test something else and we're like, oh, wait, actually, that works so much better. We thought this was the best.
Yep.
So finding ways to continually tweak and make things better, and testing different tools, right? For personal, I love Buffer. For work, we use Sprout Social because it allows us to have lots of different people doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So there are lots of ways to find, and finding the path that is right for you, because running a social account can be different if you're a small business,
right,
to whether, you're a huge organization and you're trying to figure out what the heck are we even going to post on Twitter?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we even be there? So there's lots of different ways to go about that. But if you constantly think about, what do we want out of this? What's working for us?
Right.
Is a great way to start.
Yeah.
For those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to Search Talk Live. You can visit searchtalklive.com. If you're listening to us on iHeartRadio, you can get our shows that are coming up, and we are talking with Jennifer Lopez on social media.
And if you'd like to call into the show, you can do so at 855-722-0006. That is 855-722-0006. Hit option 1. You'll be directed to our main man, Dave, who is managing the show and the phones, and he'll get you on air with your question. You can also tweet at us at Search Talk Live with your question as well. We will be monitoring that. We are sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. Please visit robertpalmercompanies.com. Check out everything they have to offer. That is robertpalmercompanies.com. Yes, so with us, we do have Jennifer Lopez of Moz, Director of Community. Is that correct? Is that...
Yeah, I have a new title. It's kind of a ridiculous title. I got to be honest. It's Senior Director of Community and Audience Development. So I so it's very long. I should work on consolidating that a bit.
Yeah.
But
So does that mean you're 65 plus, or no? I'm kidding. Senior.
Yeah. So
exactly. I'm going on a sabbatical here in a few weeks, and someone asked me today if I had senioritis. Lots of folks in the room were like, oh, because they thought that she was talking about my age.
Yeah.
So, let's go through the basics. So let's, since Twitter's your favorite place, let's talk about Twitter and a lot of mistakes we see and that type of thing, and how they can better, utilize Twitter.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I am extremely passionate about is the ability to let Twitter and essentially let your content do the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, let's say that you have worked really hard on this, beginner's guide to whatever, right? We have the beginner's guide to SEO. Let's say that it's the beginner's guide to SEO. We've spent all this time, resources putting it together. We have design, we have all these things. And then we're like, okay, it went live and now we post it on Twitter. And, we didn't think about the fact that we wanted to put Twitter cards and we want to make sure that it looks good on Facebook, and we didn't get open graph images and right. So the idea of making sure that when you make a piece of content go live, that you're thinking of what happens after it's live as well, because those first few days of social are what really kicks off a good piece of content, right? So I like to often talk about the fact that social can be that sort of immediate kick or boost. Sorry, there's the word. Like the word is in my mind. That immediate boost for a piece of content that in the end, right, brings in search traffic. So that's not to say that social specifically, directly impacts search. But what happens is you get a blog post, for example. Let's just take a blog post. A blog post goes up. It does really well. It's on a topic people like. It's getting a ton of retweets. People are sharing it all over the place. People start talking about it. People start referencing it in various places. And over time, it started, it's kicked off all this discussion, and it has started earning links. Mm-hmm. And a couple months down the road, you find like, oh, we're still getting traffic for it. And all the traffic now is organic. It's search, right? And a lot of, so making sure that you're putting that best foot forward when you first kick off a piece of content or whatever it is. Maybe it's a video, maybe it's it could be images, right? Pinterest, whatever the thing is, making sure that when you're planning that piece of content, that you're also thinking, I want to make sure that when it gets shared on Twitter, that it shows the exact image that I want to show.
Yeah,
right. I want to make sure that when I put it on Facebook or LinkedIn, that it's going to show exactly what I want it to show, and it's not going to be, how many times have you gone to share something and like no image comes up, or some image that doesn't make any sense comes up, and you're like, what is even happening?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a thing. We've all seen that happen. I feel like I'm constantly out there fixing people's Facebook posts.
Yeah.
And one way to do that, if you've never used the Facebook debugger, have you guys used that? It is like,
I have not.
No.
It is the most brilliant thing in the world. So what happens on Facebook, the very first time that any link gets posted on Facebook, it gets cached. And so let's say like, this morning, we launched Keyword Explorer. We had the wrong open graph images on there. And so in order to recache it, you have to run it through the debugger. So you upload, you add a new image, maybe you change your title, whatever you want to do. In order for Facebook to ever show those changes, you have to go to this Facebook debugger and recache the page.
Oh, yes.
And, I'm constantly fixing people's like wrong open graph stuff. But the idea of just, making sure that the content that you're working so hard on, because whether you're a content strategist or an SEO or a social media person or a community manager or whatever, you've all been told that content, is the big thing, and you have to have great content. And content, we hear it from all sides, right? But it doesn't matter how great the content is. And you're not, who's going to come look at your stuff if, those first few days when you're getting those social boosts, you flop.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
I mean, for kind of these, a lot of our listeners probably have like a smaller blog and not well known and maybe just kicking off their blog. When they're putting out content, say they put out this awesome piece of content and it doesn't do well, they don't get much interaction from it. Nobody's just really engaging with it. What should their next process be? Should they be reaching out to influencers, kind of sharing with them through social media? Hey, I just put this out. Kind of, what do you think? What should their process be to kind of enhance their visibility and hopefully increase that engagement?
Good question.
Yeah. I love that question. Yeah, that's a great one. So there are a couple things, honestly, like, promoting posts, whether it's promoting a tweet or promoting a Facebook post with actual money. I know that it sounds daunting a bit, but especially on Facebook, you can actually you can reach a lot more people with a little amount of money, which is really nice. And that's not to say that that's the only way to do it. Facebook is a tough one because it very much can be sometimes like the only way to reach people, even the people who are following you.
Right.
The only way to really reach them is to put some money into it.
Yeah.
But being able to know, who are the people who are specifically talking about a certain thing, right? Do your homework beforehand. I would definitely not wait until after something's not doing very well.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, you want that as soon as it goes out, you want that initial boost. You want to know, is this a post that's going to work on, let's say, is this something that I want to get submitted to inbound.org? I want to get submitted to Hacker News, right? You want to think about those things up front and think, okay, I know that I saw so-and-so from the community or, in our world, right? Somebody says, oh, I saw Rand Fishkin tweeting about this the other day. I'm going to respond to him because I know that he's already talked about it, right? And say, hey, I'd love for you to check out this post, or I wrote this post and mentioned you, or, whatever the case is. Doing some of that work up front and thinking of that as simply part of the process of putting your content out, right? Thinking of that to me, that's going along with making sure you have open graph images and, Twitter cards, that you're thinking of that whole process. You're thinking, who cares about this? That comes down to even when you're writing something, right? Like you're writing a piece of content, there has to be people who actually care about what it is that you're writing about, right? And then that's when you start stirring those ideas of, is this something that could go on Product Hunt, for example? Is this something that, I could try to get on Growth Hackers?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
And the other thing too, I would say on that note is making sure that when you're creating your social media accounts, that you stay focused on the people that are genuinely interested in your service or product or whatever it may be.
Right.
Because when you amplify that content, you're amplifying it to people that are actually interested. When you go out and buy Twitter followers or you just follow whoever, you're not getting that audience.
Yeah, and you're not seeing super focused, right?
Right.
I mean, so we often talk about the fact that if you look at, for example, you look at Rand's followers and you look at Moz, the main Moz account followers. Moz has more followers. However, Rand can literally take a website down by tweeting something and getting, so many people to do it. What has happened is, and I think there's a difference between just the fact that he doesn't tweet all that. Like when he tweets something, people know that it is a well thought out. If he tweets a link to a blog post or he tweets about a product, we're going to go look at it because we know that he's only going to tweet things that he, feels strongly about. Whereas with Moz, we promote a lot of things on our account. And so, people might get like, I see those things. But there's a thing that Rand has less followers. but he will get more engagement sometimes on certain tweets, right? And it's because of, what he tweets, how he tweets. He even tells you, you go to his bio, which, he may have changed that recently, right? But he used to say, I tweet 4 to 5 times a day about SEO and entrepreneurship or something like that, right? He's very focused, and it made it easy to know, like, I want to follow this person, and it made it easy for him, too, to know what to tweet about.
Yep.
He doesn't tweet about, like, oh, I had the best lasagna for dinner, right? Because he's told people what he's going to tweet about, and he's going to tweet about those things.
Right. So, I mean, that's probably an important part of your strategy, no matter what your business is, maybe set those expectations so people know exactly what they're going to get from you.
Yeah. The other thing is, so we've more recently started focusing on Instagram. And Instagram, it is not about, we don't put anything on there about marketing. We don't promote blog posts or anything. It's very much specifically used for building a brand around working at Moz.
Yeah.
What it's like to work here, because we're constantly recruiting, so it's kind of a place for recruiting. And so we have a list of things. We're like, we only will post pictures of alcohol once a week, or right? Because just to be like, we don't want to look like a bunch of booze hounds here, because it's really easy to be like, hey, having a beer.
Yeah, they drink a lot over at Moz.
I remember when Star Wars first came out, y'all did that whole Star Wars skit in the office. That was pretty fun.
We do lots of fun things like that. And we like to show off sort of who we are as a company as well. But we have a list of things of like, use these hashtags, don't post food too often.
Yeah.
And, talk about dogs as often as you want. I don't know what exactly the rules are, right? But we have a certain group of things of like, and lots of people have access to that particular account. So people on various teams can be in a team meeting and something awesome happened, and they can, take a picture and post it.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have a document that's been shared with the entire staff that says this is what this is focused on, and this is how we're managing it, and this is how you can help us. Right.
Well, that brings up a very interesting point, because I think a lot of companies and businesses kind of have the same strategy across all their social media channels. They think if it works well on Facebook, well, it's going to work well on Instagram, it's going to work well on Twitter, and that's not always the case.
Yeah.
So how do they go about kind of developing, or, should they be developing specific strategies for each social media platform, because it's not going to work the same across all of them?
Right. 100%. They are all completely different. Now, it could depend for us. We sort of look at, for example, Google Plus. We will post all kinds of things on Google Plus.
Yeah.
It's just a bit different for us. We can play around with it, and sometimes we will test something on Google Plus and see how it does. If nobody responds to it, nobody likes it, we're like, maybe we won't post it anywhere else. We post it on Google Plus, and we get some like, this is ridiculous, or we can use it as a way to sort of determine, what more we want to talk about. But yeah, we have very specific things for each of our channels. We also have a follower wonk Twitter account. We're ramping up a Moz Local Twitter and Facebook page, and each of those also are very different, right? So. We're going to be, for example, from the Moz Local Twitter account, we will be tweeting lots of industry articles. So not necessarily anything about Moz or Moz Local, but sort of that local marketing, local search industry focused, right? So starting out, what we want to do is really be a part of the conversation, help people to know that like they can follow that account and stay up to date on what's happening. And, we will jump into conversations as needed. Now, as, over the next 6 months to a year, as that account grows and it changes a bit, we may change that focus. We may say, okay, we're now at a point where we've built this following, and we want to add, a couple promotions a day of Moz stuff or whatever, right?
Right.
But I think that's key as well, knowing that once you come up with a specific plan, again, it's not a set it and forget it and, you can't think differently, right? What happens with Instagram if in a year Instagram works completely different than it currently does, right? Because they're constantly changing things on it. And they don't ask us for approval first.
Yeah, it's like take it and you'll like it whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I was not happy about the hearts on Twitter. But
yeah.
I'm living with it. Right. But so knowing that Instagram could change and it could be that it becomes a great traffic driver for our marketing tactics. And so we may completely change the way we do that. Right. So it's being able to say, okay, this is our plan. And in 6 months, we're going to reevaluate it.
Right.
Or in a year or 3 months, right? It could depend, but being able to say like, okay, this is what's working for me now, and I'm going to, kind of check myself in a few months to make sure that that's still actually working, I think is pretty key.
Yeah. Let's touch on LinkedIn for a minute because I think they have made a lot of changes and several of them improvements. But as far as the content sharing goes, I think that's a huge plus on this platform. How can companies use that? I forget what they call it. Where
Pulse.
You can Pulse, yeah, the Pulse. How can companies kind of use the Pulse? What is that for? How can they best utilize that part of it? Because I think it kind of offers a unique sense than kind of the other platforms do.
Yeah, I think so. There are two things specifically that I think LinkedIn is doing a really great job at, right? So there's the one where you can go and you write a post, right? It's almost like putting something on Medium. That's like the new, Medium's the newest thing to do too. It's like right, and you can do that, and I think that it's a smart way to get yourself in front of a lot of different folks, right? Especially if you're just building a brand, and a lot of that is that you want to show that you are a leader in a certain space. You are the person who is talking about this particular thing. You're the can't think of the word. Anyway, and you can utilize that as a way to sort of get your information out to possibly a different group of people. Or open it to a wider group of people, I should say. The other thing that we are finding is simply by posting links back to our blog and, like sharing updates like we would on Facebook or whatever, that actually drives a ton of traffic back to the blog itself. And those are the things that are getting lots of engagement. And I was just going to go look right now and see. So we will get so I just logged in and it says Moz has 90 new notifications.
Oh, wow.
And that's from content that we have just posted. It's not like direct content, right? It's like, here's stuff that we're posting about. Now, that could be because of Keyword Explorer launching, and we probably got lots of notifications.
Right.
Right, but lots of stuff is happening there that wasn't happening before. And you can show video, you can do a lot more with LinkedIn than you used to be able to. So even going in and considering and saying, okay, I'm going to test out a couple things and let's see what happens with this, I think is really, really smart with LinkedIn because they've made some modifications to the app that allows you to really, get out there. And, you go to your particular homepage, right? You're in LinkedIn, you hit home, and you're seeing all the people, right? You're seeing status updates. You're seeing all these things from people who you're connected to. You even see if somebody likes, it's like Facebook. If somebody I'm connected to likes a post, I will see that in my feed and be like, what? What are these things? Oh, and sponsored, again, I feel like the sponsored ads on LinkedIn in your feed, they don't stand out very much, right? So another smart way to really think about it is just taking a second look at LinkedIn and saying like, okay, they've made a lot of changes. They want us to be here. What can we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I think that's underutilized in some cases, because, this is great for B2B, but getting in the groups that they have, the special interest groups, like, Moz has one,
well, sort of.
Had one.
So we had one. And the problem is that there was so much spam. I mean, it's essentially a free SEO forum, right? There was lots and lots of spam, and it got to be so much that we were spending, we had a person spending 2 to 3 hours a day dealing with spam.
Oh, wow.
And we finally were just like, you know what? We're going to not do this anymore.
Right.
But that, I believe, was the industry, the size that the group got, right? So there are lots of things that added to that. In general, there are other groups that I'm a part of that I enjoy seeing those updates and having conversations and whatnot.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the space you're in.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes I know on Google Plus also there are great communities on there, right? Of really good ones. I have one. There's a couple community manager Facebook groups, which I always think is funny. It's like the community of community managers. There's one on Google Plus and a couple on Facebook that I really enjoy. Like I set it up so that I get all alerts anytime something happens in there because, it's always really interesting. I might be able to add something, it's like I'm not junior in this anymore. So I like being able to give back and help people out and things like that. Since I'm not as, I don't feel as senior in the SEO space as I once was. And so I like to spend my time being able to give back, in the other communities. So it's interesting to be able to utilize those areas, as well. That's a great way to meet the influencers, right? Meet the people who are talking about the things you care about.
Right. If you're tuning into the show, you are listening to Search Talk Live. It is Moz Month. We have our special guest, Jennifer Lopez of Moz, Senior Director of Community, and I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of that.
And audience development.
And audience development. There we go. I usually write things down on my notes. I need to write that down. Yes, we have Jennifer Lopez. We're talking about social media. If you'd like to call into the show, you can at 855-722-0006. That is 855-722-0006. Option 1. And we will get your question on air as best we can. You can also tweet at us at Search Talk Live or email us Robert at Search Talk Live or Caleb at Search Talk Live. We actually did receive a question from a listener, and they ask automatic DMs on Twitter, yes or no, or should you stay away from them?
No, please, no. Please.
No, please which way?
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
I do actually think that there could be reasons to do it, right? In situations where you may have to turn them on or something, right? For like something's happening and you want people to know that there's a hurricane happening and we are not around right now.
Yeah.
I do feel like that there are sometimes circumstances in which it might be smart to use them.
Right.
But in general, please, for the love of all things social, don't use auto DM.
I think people have kind of gotten numb to it anyway. They don't read the message because it's just so frequent and the same
Well, I think it takes the human element out of it.
Yeah, I would just totally unfollow that account.
Yeah.
If I followed an account and then I got an auto DM that's like, thanks for following me, I would be like,
buy my book or something.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. I would love to have a conversation with you. It's like, no, that is not going to be the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing I want to touch on with Twitter, because I'm pretty big on Twitter as well. Mm-hmm. Be sure and change your default egg picture. Get rid of that thing and put your photo and a description. That is the most basic part of Twitter. If you don't have a description your picture or a picture of your brand or whatever, you're going to have less people follow you because that is considered a spam account and most people will not touch that.
That is so, so true. And the biggest thing is, lots of people think that as a company that you absolutely have to use your logo.
Right.
And I think in many cases, especially if you are a smaller company and maybe you're just starting out and what have you, it might make more sense. But it's not always the case. We're lucky we have a cute, adorable robot that we're able to use, right? And then
Right.
sort of tweet as Roger. So that's unique, I realize. But somehow making it personalized so that that when you're looking through the feed, you also want to stand out a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because, boy, I'm looking at my Twitter feed right now of just all the things coming in. And, there's just a sea of people. And you want something that is going to make you stand out just a little bit.
Right.
Right? Whether it's a yellow background. I remember Rand had a yellow background for a long time. And I remember how much had that when he first got it was like, whoa, all I see is Rand all the time now because this yellow background just really makes it stand out.
Right.
But yeah, if somebody hovers over your account and they're like, who is this person or what is this organization? You hover over the account, you get the information. You want to see what they do, what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you care about? And then a link to your site, right? So you can say, oh, what is this?
Right. Those are so important.
I have a question here from
love questions.
Someone. The guy's basically asking, he owns a consulting firm, but he's also an author. He wants to know which is best, to tweet from himself or as the company.
So it's really going to depend on what his focus is. Mm. Honestly, is he more focused on getting himself as a person sort of out there? I also see lots of people do both. There's not necessarily a harm in doing both, right? Especially if it's a blog post, it's on the blog, it's on the company blog, and it's by you as a person, right? Mm-hmm. Both of you tweeting that about that isn't the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, we do it on Moz all the time. Moz posts something, Rand posts something.
Sure.
But he has built that up. So there will be those pieces that are similar. The key is to make sure that there are differentiators, right? It's not that you can only tweet from one account and not the other account. It's what differentiates his personal account from the company account.
Yeah,
right.
I think that he's trying to make a name for himself as an influence, but also gain brand recognition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I would make sure that the accounts are probably linked together and work on a specific strategy for what the difference is. I think that's the biggest key there is saying, okay, so I want to make sure that my name, I get on the, I know that I'm well known, or, I get to be well known for this particular thing. Right. But I also want to make sure that the company is there. So maybe the company also posts about other, I don't know, other industry. I'm not sure what industry it is, right? Sure. Like other industry events or industry things that are happening. But he specifically posts about, the more personal side of those things. Mm-hmm. I really think that it's sitting down and saying, why do I have these two accounts? What am I going to put on this account? What am I going to put on this account? Right. And what are the things that overlap, but what are the distinguishing factors of each one? Yeah. And maybe it's a, I mean, we see it all the time. We see people like, I'm trying to think of somebody who started out like the Aim Clear account, right? Marty Weintraub started out, it was his personal account was the Aim Clear account. And he made that into a much bigger thing. He used the @Aim Clear, but it said Marty Weintraub, right? So he then got that up, and now he has a separate account from the Aim Clear account, and the Aim Clear account is specific to the company. So he sort of used himself and the organization together, right, to like boost up that one account. And then he was well known enough that when he opened his second account that just had his name on it, that's his personal account, that he had lots of followers right away because people wanted to follow him personally.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So couple of different strategies around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his concern was that if someone asks him a question, does he answer as the company or does he answer as?
Oh gosh. Okay. So that again, if somebody is asking, I would probably do it from the,
right.
well, I don't know. I guess it
Preference.
depends. The thing is, so I also like to hear from a human being, right?
Yeah.
So you could very well, sometimes if you send a message to Moz and we actually feel like, you know what, we don't want to just respond from, the Moz account, we will, let's say it's an issue with the Moz bar. We will ask our product manager who manages Moz bar to tweet back to you and say, hey, I would love for you to email me directly and I can, help you figure out this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person's like, who's this who's this guy? And they look at his bio and it says, product manager for Moz bar. And you're like, oh, sweet. Right. You're like, I got the person who actually knows the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which can also be pretty exciting too. It's like, oh, I'm actually talking with the person who can make the change that I need to make.
Right. Very cool. Now we got about
5 minutes.
Well, yeah, about less than 5 minutes in the show, and I'm kind of interested in it because I'm not a Snapchatter. But kind of what's your experience with that, and does it have a place as far as promoting your business, interacting and engaging with clients and your audience? Well, I guess it's a loaded question, but
kind of depends on your audience,
I mean, like, how
Yeah.
can you know? How can you best utilize Snapchat? Should you even be using it, depending on your industry? Kind of, what is that whole realm? Because I'm not on Snapchat. My wife uses it constantly, but how can you utilize that specific tool?
Yeah. So I was really against it for the longest time. And 2 years ago for April Fools, we actually did a thing at Moz that was like, we're going to do all of our customer support through Snapchat. And
I'm sure that went over well.
It was this big joke. It was actually pretty hilarious. We had people all set up. We had lots of Snapchats that day, and it was actually lots of fun. But since then, they've made a bunch of new improvements to it. And one of the accounts that I would highly recommend to see, oh, this is how it works well, is Mark's sister. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Mark. Yeah, Suster. He talks about every day. He puts his story together. So essentially you can take like 5 or 6 different snaps and put it into a story.
Okay.
Right? And he creates these stories, one every day, and every day they last for 24 hours. He creates a story that's like one day he'll talk about, like a sales life cycle. And he will walk you through step by step. And it's so brilliant, right? Like it was one of these things that's like, who needs Snapchat, right? Like I'm not a 13-year-old.
Right.
And I kept seeing Mark tweet about how he was on Snapchat. I'm like, all right, I'll go check this out. And it's brilliant. I watch these every single day. Every day he has a new one go up. And
we're running out of time. Hurry.
Okay. So I would just say check it out. There are actually lots of things you can do with it, and stories is probably the best bet from a brand standpoint.
Got you.
Jennifer, I want to thank you for coming on the show and giving us your insights on social media.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hold on the line when we sign off really quick. All right? Guys, this is Moz Month. Tune in next week. We have Dr. Pete on the show, which is going to be huge. I think that's one of I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
If you are listening to us on iHeart, please go to our website at searchtalklive.com. Hit us up on Twitter at searchtalklive.
Yes. Check out past shows. Make sure to do that and all the things that are upcoming, and sign up for the newsletter so you get firsthand.
Yes. Thanks again, everybody, for your support. We will see you next week at Tuesday at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.